load more of tree cuttings has come through, so I'm going to build a little bay and compost this to make ericaceous compost for the blueberries. First I'm going to cut several lengths of this nylon string so I can tie the pallets together. It's easier to cut them all first, and then I'm not messing about trying to keep cutting little lengths. I start by tying two pieces together to form one corner. This is quickly tied together just to hold it in place, and then I can join them up properly and tighter later. And I do the same on the other side. Quickly tied some pallets together to give me enough space to put that pine clippings into this bay for now. After the pallets were firmly tied together, I could bring in the clippings and fill the bay. The wheelie bin is too heavy to tip over when it's full, so I have to empty some of it before I tip it over. Otherwise it could get damaged when it hits the ground. I have emptied some of the clippings onto the bottom of the bay, and the wheelie bin is now light enough to be able to tip over without causing damage. Having thought about it, obviously this is going to be filled to the top. That would not have been enough. By the time it's gone down, it's going to be about a half to a third of a cubic metre. So I need more. So I built the second bay. I'll fill that to the top as well. By the time I've done that, I will have about a cubic metre of compost, and I can use that for mulching and basically filling the raised bed for the blueberries. The pallets that I've used for the back and the sides, I've got tight gaps. So should be okay. They'll hold the compost in. I mean, there's a little bit that drops, but it should be alright. But what I've got left now are these pallets that I've got great big holes. So what I'm going to do, I've salvaged some of this corrugated sheeting. It's wonky, it's warped in the heat, so it's not straight, but that's why they threw it out. So I'm going to use that, put that at the front, and then that will hold the leaves and the compost in, otherwise they'll just fall through the gaps. I've got that pallet in the middle, and I've tied the back pieces and the side pieces to it, so that gives it the strength. But this side, because I put the sheets in, I can't tie the front pallet to that one in the middle. So what I'm going to do, to give it a bit of strength, I'm going to put a couple of bars in front of this, just so that when the compost pushes out, it's not going to fall over. I'll just tie the pallet to the poles just to help hold it steady. Those corrugated sheets are doing a good job of holding those wood chips in, and to make it go to the top, I've got a couple more sheets to put in. The sheeting will hold all this compost in, and you can see it's a bit all bent and wobbly, so it's no good for roofing, but it's good for this. And now that I've slid that in, I can tie these pieces together, and that'll make it stronger. I've tied the tops together. Now this should be secure. I mean, it doesn't have to be that secure, it's only a compost heap. All the pine cuttings that was there this morning is now in these two bins, and they're about 2/3 full. So there's about 1.5 cubic metres. By the time it's gone down, it'll be about half a cubic metre, but I will top these bins up as more stuff arrives. Look nice and okay. A day's job well done. I'm layering the leaves and things with some of the older stuff, and that is conifers and things. That's, you know, the wood chips that have pretty well rotted down, but it's mostly conifers again, so it'll be fine. So I put in a layer of the more rotten stuff and then covering it back up with more fresh green stuff, so just layering it like that. Right, I've filled these 2 compost bays full of stuff for the ericaceous compost. It looks like I've overfilled them, but this stuff will settle down quite quickly, so within a week or 2 it will be at the level of the top of the pallets. As it rots down, it will become lower and lower, and I might top it up a little bit later in the year, in a couple of months, and then it can sit there and rot on its own over the next year or so, and then I can put these blueberries in about this time next year, so it'll have a year to just sit there and rot on its own. I'm not going to turn it, but it should be done by then. This leaf mould bin that I started in November, it's settled down quite a bit. It was sort of up to about there, and it's gone down by about 1/3 since November. I mean, it was both brown leaves and green leaves, a bit of sticks and things, so it has settled down quite a bit. The problem is, as it's settled down, it's leant to one side, so it's sort of leaning that way slightly. It's not going to fall over, but I need to cut the hedge behind it, and it needs to be turned. It's about time to take this down. It was only temporary because I didn't have the room for it anywhere else, but now that I've got more space with all that stuff at the back cleared and all these hedges gone, I can move this, and then it'll be ready for next year. It was temporary and it's done its job. It's held all together. Rattles around a bit when it's windy, but it's survived the storm, no problem. I'll put those tubs and mushroom crates on top to keep the leaves from flying out, but it should be alright now. And the stuff at the bottom looks a bit more rotten down than the stuff at the top, which I put in later. I'm going to take this down and I'm going to put it here. I've made the ericaceous compost bins, so I'm going to move the leaf mould here next to it. I'll put some second-hand weed fabric around the bin, put the leaves in, and that will stop it spilling out. So I'll put some pallets together and start moving that. Right, I've found a piece of pallet which is the same size as this one, so that's going to be the end. And for the 2 sides, I've found 2 identical sized pallets, the same height and width. There was a big bump in the ground. So I had to dig out a little bit. To make the ground level so that the pallet would sit straight. Some more leaf and wood chips arrived, so I put a bit of this at the bottom of the bin before I line it, so I can just push it against the sides, and then I'll take the other stuff and put that on top of this. This corrugated sheeting has done its job, but now it's time to take this down. The newest stuff obviously hasn't had time to rot down, but as I will go down, obviously some of this stuff has fallen down as I've opened it up, but the stuff down the bottom is rotting away nicely. Well, this is gone. The big sheets of corrugated plastic are there, and I've emptied all that was in there. The shorter pieces of corrugated plastic I've used to line this, so it's partially lined. At the bottom it's lined with the weed fabric, and then the corrugated plastic just to give it a bit more strength. And I've sort of half filled it, what was in there, plus what I got from the car park this morning. But it's raining, so I'm not keen on keeping the camera out in the rain too long, so I didn't film anything. There were some deep holes and more like a trench down this edge. It's going to be sort of the edge of the path and the bed, but there's so much of it. I've gone and got some well-rotted wood chips and mounded it up, and by the time I come around to using these beds next year, these wood chips will go down quite a bit. So although it looks like a big mound, by the time I come to use the beds, it will be more or less level, and then I can just top it off with a bit of soil or compost. Don't know what they were digging, but there's some pretty big holes around here. Hopefully that'll even it out a little bit. There's still a bit more here. It doesn't show on camera. This bit is not too bad, but that bit was really bad. It was about a good 15 centimeters in spots. Once the weeds and stuff start growing, you don't see the hole, it's wet, you step into it and then you fall over, so it's dangerous. So hopefully this will help level out these holes here, but I've got them all over the place and I haven't got enough topsoil to fill in all the holes. So where there's going to be beds, I'll just use wood chips, and this path is going to be wood chips anyway, so it doesn't matter. I can just keep topping it up. The palette that I was originally going to use for the end is actually worse than it looked at first, so I'm not going to use it. Okay, well the solution is to find a longer palette, and this is the only one I've got to fit this length, but it's a little bit shorter in terms of height, but that's not anything serious. So I'll tie this up, but the weather's not cooperating, so I'm not going to film it. I'll just film the end. This second compost bin is done. I mean, it's still got a bit more space, so as more stuff arrives I'll fill it up. So I've got the two bins for the ericaceous compost and more normal compost, and of course I've got all that stuff for this year, and this will do for next year. This compost, well, the top is a bit leaves and stuff I put in at the end, so they haven't quite finished yet, but the stuff in the middle should be posted down, and something has made a nice little hole, so it's obviously been hiding it in the winter in the warmth, but you can see the edges are quite nicely rotted down. So, and I can actually feel the warmth of it. It's just a slight warmth, so I should be good for compost this year, and once I've used this to fill the containers and things, I won't need quite as much as this next year. Right, some more conifer cuttings have arrived, and this is mostly leaves with a little bit of wood chips in it. So I'm going to put them in a container for now, and when I've moved all these raspberries onto the borders, I'll use this to mulch around them. This should keep down the weeds quite well, because as it rots down it'll obviously feed the plants, so should be a good little mulch. This used to be the old leaf mould bin. Temporarily holding some of these in. This bin is now full of those fresh conifer chippings, so when I move the raspberries I'll have this ready to go. I don't have to keep going back, and it may not be there by the time I get around to the raspberries, so when it's here and ready to go for when I want it. I'm going to cover these two compost bays with the privet trimmings, and that will just cover this and stop the wind blowing all the compost all over the place. I've chucked all the excess green bits of cuttings from the green parts of the hedges onto this bin. Once the leaves rot down they'll come off, and then I can just throw out the sticks, and then this will be down. This will have gone down a bit, so it looks a lot now, but it will go down. Here we are 2 years later and it's still standing. It's done fine, it's done a good job. Those corrugated sheets did a good job of holding the compost in. Obviously some weeds have grown around it, but that's only to be expected. I've used all that compost. I'm taking it down because where it is I need to add some more beds, and you can see how long it's been, because those hedges that were cut has been cut again, but you can see how far they've gone. There's still a little bit of compost left with a few woody bits on top. There's only about half a cubic metre, and that will go pretty soon. And then this will be taken out and there will be more beds here. But you'll have to keep watching for that in upcoming videos. In the next video I'll be planting some seeds and I'll do a few other odd jobs. So goodbye for now and come back soon.